Hi, welcome to Flash and Film, a beginner's guide to getting started. I want to start out by telling you a little bit about me. I live in a tiny town in central Illinois with my hubby Darren and kiddos Peyton and Mackenzie. I have my degree in communications with an emphasis on graphic design. I've been the owner and photographer at K. Darling Photography, specializing in weddings, newborns, babies, and families since 2012. I feel that hair color is the easiest non-permanent change you can make when you need to make a change, and I often have purple or some other funky color in my hair. I love to laugh, it fuels my soul, and if you're ever in Fisher and you bring me a McDonald's Diet Coke, we'll be friends for life. I started my photography business in the spring of 2012. I was full-time from the very start and quickly realized that I would need to find a way to still make money during the late fall and winter months when I couldn't shoot outdoors. So I started photographing clients in my living room, setting up and tearing down after each and every session for a makeshift studio in my living room. Our home is south-facing, however, with many mature trees and a large covered front porch, very little natural light gets in. So I quickly figured out that I had to learn to use artificial light, but it needed to be inexpensive, efficient, and quick and easy to set up and tear down. And I wanted it to give me a consistent look to maintain a consistent portfolio. In March of 2018, after attending Julie Paisley's Film 101 class, now called Shooting Film Without Fear, I started adding film to my weddings and studio sessions, and by 2019, I was shooting film exclusively. Learning and adding flash with film just wasn't something I wanted to learn, it was something I had to learn if I wanted to have the freedom to photograph with film wherever and whenever I wanted. So I did the research, I watched some videos, I experimented, I ruined a bunch of rolls of film, but I didn't stop until I'd figured it out. So why use flash and film? The reasons why I use flash with film is, again, winter in Illinois is really long and really dark, and my aesthetic is light and airy. So I wanted to be able to create a natural light look whenever and wherever I was, whether I was indoors with my artificial light or outside with natural light. I wanted to have the same skin tones and the same consistent look to keep my portfolio consistent. I now, so I can shoot, I can also shoot at 1/60th of a second and freeze motion, which is huge when you are photographing toddlers indoors on film. Many venues also do not have adequate light for film. Even in the summer months, they are often darker, or you don't have the window light that you need to be able to be at least 2.8. So being able to add in some artificial light and still get a natural window light look has been wonderful for me. Also, as we all know, dance floors and receptions are dark, and it's a lot of fun to photograph some dancing or some of the reception, some of the things that happen at the reception with film, 35 millimeter film that has been double exposed with Christmas lights, and it just creates an unexpected thing for my client's portfolio, and I love that it's on film and it's just magic. Also, sometimes with venues that even have quite a bit of windows, they are large, and so our shadows become a little bit darker. And so sometimes I just need that pop of flash to fill in my shadows to be able to shoot at 2.8. Also, you just can't beat the look of film. It's just beautiful, magical, and the exposure latitude is out of this world. But when I first started photographing flash with film, my initial results were less than stellar, as you can see by this photo of my daughter here. So I just kept working, learning, practicing, asking lots and lots of questions, and experimenting. All of that hard work paid off. I started seeing consistent results. Clients started noticing my style and that it was, and still is, different than other photographers in my area. Many photographers in my area either have a very vivid color look or they tend to be more dark and moody, and so I really stand out in my market with a nice light and airy look. And honestly, I don't really think clients care that I shoot film or that I use artificial light. All they really care about is that their wedding will look like the consistent work that they see that I post online and in my portfolio. I can now walk into the worst of lighting situations and know that I will walk out with amazing results that look natural, and I can use film for every aspect of a wedding and not have to worry if I have enough light. There are just a few things you need to know before beginning to use flash with film. The first and most important thing that you need to always remember is that light is light. Also, most of the equipment that you need you probably already have in your camera bag. You might just have to add in a couple extra accessories, but not too much. You need to know your particular camera's maximum sync speed. You also need to remember that you can meter for shadows, midtones, or highlights just as you do with natural light, and you just need to make sure to communicate with your lab which of those you metered for. You want to remember that you never want to be more than 3 stops of difference between your highlights and shadows. For example, if your shadows are at 2.8, then you don't want your highlights to be more than 8.0, so you're going 2.8, 4, 5.6, 8. On your digital camera, and this is a big one, you can set your ISO on your digital camera to 100 and with the same f-stop and shutter speed that you are using to meter at 400 ISO with your film camera with the same f-stop and shutter speed. So for example, if you are wanting to make sure that you are at 2.8 f-stop with a shutter speed of 1/60th and you are rating your film at 400 ISO, then your digital camera would be set to 100 ISO with an f-stop of 2.8 and a shutter speed of 1/60th. It's a great way to test your light to make sure you don't have any funky shadows coming across your subject's face, to take a couple test shots with your digital and see how everything is looking. These are the basic lighting items that you need to have in your bag for beginning to shoot flash with film on location or in a studio. I use the Canon 580 EX2 speed lights, and I also use the LumaPro LP 180 speed light. The LumaPro is a universal flash that can be used on any brand, including the Pentax, Hasselblad, Contax, Mamiya, Olympus, you name it. It can also be used on your Canon or Nikon cameras also. Now, this particular flash has been discontinued. However, I contacted B&H and they gave me a couple alternatives to the LumaPro, including a couple from Godox and from Yongano. You can also find the LumaPros used on eBay or from other sellers like KEH. You also want to have a Sekonic L358 light meter or one that's equivalent to it. I just prefer the Sekonic L358. You need at least one light stand. 2 is preferable. You need 2 pocket wizards or some sort of transceiver and receiver. I just prefer to use the Pocket Wizards. They are always reliable, they always fire for me, and they aren't too terribly expensive. You also need to attach your flash to your light stand. You need a mini hot shoe with a cord. You need a swivel mount bracket for your light stand, especially if you are using a white shoot-through umbrella. You also want to keep the little flash shoes that come with your flash. That way, if you don't want to use a light stand but you want to set a flash on a table or in a windowsill, you can easily do so with that flash shoe that came with your flash. And don't worry if you threw those away like I did. You can pick them up for just a few dollars on eBay or other sellers. You also need a white shoot-through umbrella. I use a 33-inch shoot-through umbrella when I go on location, and all of these links are in the PDF. Here are some popular film camera sync speeds. These are the maximum sync speeds for cameras such as the Contax 645, the Pentax 645, the Mamiya, the Hasselblad, the Rolleiflex, and the Yashica Mat. In this video, we are going to go over all the different parts that make up your off-camera flash. And as you can see here, there really aren't that many pieces to putting this together and making it work. You can really do it very easily, very inexpensively, and make it very portable to set up really quickly on a wedding day or at a special event or in a client's home. Wherever you choose to use it, all of these things are versatile and they will work virtually anywhere. So the first most important thing that any film photographer needs is a light meter. I prefer the Sekonic L358. It is just a great, reliable meter, and it's fairly affordable and very reliable and very easy to use. I've used some less expensive meters and they weren't quite as user friendly, and I just didn't feel that they were giving me as reliable of a result. And again, remember, you always want to meter with your bulb out at 90 degrees with the lightning bolt selected. You'll see that on here that there are two lightning bolts. One is the lightning bolt by itself and the other is a lightning bolt with a C. You want to use the lightning bolt by itself. The next items you will need are triggers, or a trigger and a receiver. I happen to use the Pocket Wizard Plus X, and I also have the Pocket Wizard Plus 3s. The Plus X's are as much as you need for making this off-camera flash system work, and these are a much less expensive option to the more expensive Plus 3s. The Plus 3s will allow you to control multiple flashes. However, honestly, in all my years of doing this, I have never needed to use it. So I would recommend that you go the less expensive route and get the Pocket Wizard Plus X's. You will need two of them. One of them attaches to your flash and the other goes on the hot shoe on your camera. Another item that you will need is a hot shoe mount with a cord. And how this works is you take your speed light or your flash and you secure it into the hot shoe like so, and then you attach your trigger or receiver into that. And when they are both on the same radio frequency, meaning your trigger on your flash and your trigger on your camera are on the same radio frequency, then that will allow your flash to fire. And you can always test it there by using the test button on your trigger. There's also a test button on this trigger. You also will need a really good sturdy light stand. These are a little bit smaller and more portable. I like to use the smaller and more portable light stands they can be used during all parts of a wedding day. However, when it comes to setting up my lights on the dance floor, I like to use light stands that have a little bit broader base and are just a little bit sturdier all together, just in case anybody that's rowdy and really getting their dance on the dance floor happens to bump into them. It's less likely that they're going to fall over. But these will work also on a dance floor. They're perfect for using during the reception when you're having toasts and introductions and cake cutting and you're having to move your flash all over. They're very portable. These happen to be the Cheetah brand, which are a little bit more on the expensive side, about $100 a piece. However, when you put them down, they will expand for you, and when you pick it up, they will collapse. And so it makes it much easier to maneuver around a tight reception area. Also makes it a lot easier if you're in the getting ready room and you want to move to a different area of where you are, you can easily pick them up. Again, not necessary to buy these. You can find a really great pair of light stands or a really cheap light stand on Amazon for less than $20 or around 20 to 30 if you want to buy a pair of them. I recommend having a pair of them because it's nice to use two of them on the dance floor. We're also going to talk about the white shoot-through umbrella. I purchased a set of these on Amazon. They are the 33-inch ones. And again, they were less than $30, I believe, for two of them. Highly recommend them. Amazon has some great resources for purchasing these things. If you are going to use an umbrella with your flash, then I recommend that you get a swivel head that attaches to the top of your light stand, like so. And it will allow you to angle your flash and your umbrella different directions. Even if you're not going to use an umbrella, I really recommend that you get one of these so that you can easily move your flash around. You can always move the head around like this, but if you're using an umbrella, you really do have to have one of these swivels in order to move it around and get different angles. So there you have it. All of these items are listed in the PDF along with links on where you can purchase them from and recommendations on various speed lights that are similar to the LumaPro and Universal for all of us that aren't using Canon or Nikon. We need to be able to use flash, and so if you want to use it on your camera too at times, you need a universal flash, especially if you're using a Contax, Hasselblad. Again, this flash and other universal flashes like it can be used on any brand of camera, whether it be Canon, Nikon, Contax, Pentax, Hasselblad, Mamiya, Olympus, whatever your Fuji, whatever your heart's desire. So I highly recommend getting a universal speed light or all of your speed lights being universal, and then you don't have to worry which camera which is on, especially if you're ever going to use it on camera. If you have any questions about any of these items, please feel free to reach out in the group and ask me any questions about them. Thanks. There are a few things you need to know when metering for film with flash. The first thing is that you want to rate your film at box speed. You do not want to overexpose your film when you are using flash. The only exceptions here are Ilford Delta 3200 and Kodak P3200. Those are really ISO 800 films, and that's how they should be rated when shooting them with flash. On your meter, you want to turn your mode dial to the little lightning bolt, which is how you meter for flash. You want to set your shutter speed on your camera to the sync speed of 1/60th or whatever the maximum sync speed is for your camera. You also want to put that shutter speed on your light meter. For color film, you are metering bulb out in the shadows at 90 degrees. And for black and white film, you meter bulb out in the highlights at 90 degrees. You want to click the test button on your meter to take an exposure reading. Then without moving the meter, you want to hit the test button on your light trigger, and that will give you the results. The reading you are given is the settings for flash with film. You will need to turn the power up or down on your flash until you can reach your desired f-stop reading on your meter. Hi, I want Hi, I'm going to show you a little bit more in depth on how I meter using flash with film. You always want to meter with Hi, I'm going to show you how Hi, I'm going to show you more in depth how I meter Hi, I'm going to show you a little more in depth how I meter with flash for film. You always want to have the bulb on your meter out, and you always want to meter for flash with the lightning bolt selected, and you want to go ahead and set your shutter speed usually for your minimum sync speed on your camera. I prefer to go with a minimum sync speed of 1/60th, which is the most popular minimum sync speed for most medium format film cameras, with 1/125th and 1/160th being the minimum sync speed for most 35 millimeter cameras. So you want to start out with your flash at a low setting. I like to start out with my flash on first the manual setting, and then I also like to start out with a low setting of about 1/164th power. And I'm going to hold my meter 90 degrees from my subject's face in the shadows. I'm going to hit the black test button on my meter, and then I'm going to hit the test button on my trigger. And with this, it says that we are at 1.0 for an f-stop, so that's not quite enough, so I'm going to bump up the power on my meter to 1/132nd and see if that makes a difference. And that gives us a meter reading of 2.0 at 1/60th and ISO 400. So I'm going to bump that up a little bit more to 1/16th power. And I'm getting a reading now of 2.0.8, which technically would be good enough to call it 2.8, but I would like to go up just a little bit higher and make sure that I have plenty of power. So I'm going to 1/8 power on my flash, which is about as high as I like to use the flash so it has plenty of time to recycle. And that's perfect. Now I'm coming out with 2.8. I do usually like to meter with flash to get a reading of f4. However, 2.8 is usually sufficient if I'm only photographing one person. If I were in a situation where I had a little bit more light, then the 1/8 power would be completely enough. I don't mind if I am not having to shoot in rapid succession, going up to 1/4 power with my flash, because the fast recycle time won't be quite as necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and bump up that power and take another reading. I don't like to stand between the light and my subject's shadow, so I stand away a little bit, and now I'm getting a reading of ISO 400 at 1/160th of a second and 4.0, which is perfect. That's right where I want to be. And then I know that I can go down to 2.8 without a problem and have plenty of light, and bump it back up to 4.0 if I happen to add in another person. Setting up your off-camera flash. To set up your flash stand, make sure that the base is set wide and sturdy so that it's not easily knocked over. You want to attach the mini hot shoe on the top of the light stand, and then you want to attach the flash to the hot shoe and set it to M or manual. On your flash, you want to start with the lowest power setting or a low power setting, such as 1/64th of a second or 1/64th power. You then attach the Pocket Wizard to the mini hot shoe cord and turn it on. You also want to put a Pocket Wizard on the hot shoe on your camera. Then you meter the light and adjust the flash power up and down as needed. Remember, you want the flash setting or power setting to be the minimum setting needed to get your desired f-stop and shutter speed you need. If you're looking to get a reading of f4, and you can get that reading with 1/32nd power on your flash, then you do not need to try to go up to the next setting. You want to stay right there. If you've got it, that's where you should be. If you can go down a little bit and still get an f4 reading, then you should go down a little bit. I wanted to show you how quickly and easily you can set up your light stand and be ready to shoot. So you first take your light stand and spread out the legs. You want to make sure to have a nice wide base so that your light stand is not easily knocked over. And you want to make sure you tighten the base. And then I like to bring the light stand about chest height so that I can get the other parts on and get ready to use it. Now, I usually just keep my swivel head on my light stands at all times. So this step and the next step are things that I usually don't have to do. I just put the light stand up with already having the swivel head and the hot shoe on it. All I have to do is attach my flash, turn on my trigger and attach it, and I'm ready to go. 2-3 minutes at most, and I'm ready to test my light and start shooting. But I want to show you how everything goes together. So the swivel head attaches to the top of your light stand here, and you tighten that. And then on the swivel head, there is another screw which attaches to the bottom of the hot shoe with the cord. Next, I attach my flash. Make sure that my flash is secured. Then I attach my Pocket Wizard or trigger to the cord on the hot shoe, and I like to use the strap that came with the Pocket Wizard to make sure that the trigger is securely on there and it's not going to fall off and shatter, and you're going to have a piece of equipment to replace. Then if you're not using your shoot-through umbrella, you're ready to go. You're ready to raise it up higher. Then if you are not using the shoot-through umbrella, you are ready to raise your flash up higher and use it to bounce light off the ceiling, or you can bounce light off of a window or a wall, and you're ready to go. If you are using the shoot-through umbrella, I want to show you how that attaches to your light stand. On the swivel adapter, there is a hole right here, and you just simply slip your umbrella through there. You may have to loosen up the nut just a little bit, and then tighten it back up so that your umbrella isn't going anywhere. And then you want to point your flash head into the umbrella, and then you are able, with the turn of this lever, to bring the umbrella to a nice flattering angle, raise up the umbrella, and you're ready to go. Everything's set up. It is really, really quick and easy, can be done really quick, especially when you already have most of these items attached. You just put your light stand out, put your flash on, get your trigger attached, put the umbrella on, raise it up, and you're ready to go. 2-3 minutes tops, and you're in business. So again, remember, light is light. Strobes and speedlights are daylight balanced. So is film. It's a match made in heaven. So what is a speedlight and what is a strobe light? What's the difference? Strobe lights create more light, they recycle faster, and have a built-in modeling light which helps you see exactly where your light will fall. Speedlights, on the other hand, are much more portable, more versatile, and can create almost the same effects. You just don't see where the shadows are falling on your subject, since speedlights don't have modeling lights, but they're so portable, it's worth it. And again, if you're taking a couple test shots with your digital camera, you're going to be able to see where those shadows fall. So all you need to remember is speedlights and strobes are daylight balanced, and so is film. You still err on the side of overexposing a tad, but because you're metering at the 90-degree angle, but you're not overexposing 1 or 2 stops, whole stops, like we do when we're metering for natural light. You still meter for your shadows, and you also want to remember that the size and placement of your light and your modifier will determine how natural your light looks. The larger your modifier and the closer your subject is to your light, the more natural, the softer the shadows will be, and the closer you'll get to your desired effect. One light is all you need, and it does not have to be complicated or expensive. All you need to get started, the basics. You need a speed light. You need a modifier such as an umbrella or a Magmod sphere. You need 2 triggers such as the Pocket Wizard Plus X's or a trigger and receiver. You need a light stand and a hot shoe cord. You need a light meter, and that's all you need to be able to set up this quick and easy one light method for bridals, wedding details, getting ready rooms, family pictures, couples pictures, bridal party, whatever you want, you name it, you can use it for that. There are 4 basic one light setups. You can bounce your flash off of a ceiling or a wall. You can use your flash for fill light. You can use a window light, or you can use window light as a modifier, or you can use a shoot-through umbrella. This is my basic diagram for using light bounced off the ceiling. You would place your light stand and your flash about 45 degrees from where you want to photograph your subject, and you want to have your flash stand as high as you can to bounce it off of the ceiling, and then you can move around your subject all you want. Now I do recommend that you not try to bounce light off of a ceiling higher than 12 feet. If you are in that situation where you have a higher ceiling, then you want to find a white wall to bounce off the light, or a window, or you're going to need to add a white shoot-through umbrella. If you have the reason is because if you have a high ceiling like that, your light is just going to spill everywhere, and it's not going to be concentrated enough onto your subject to make a difference. The quickest and easiest way to use off-camera flash is with your flash on a light stand, either with the bare bulb or a diffuser such as the Magmod Sphere. When the ceilings are low, less than 10 to 12 feet, and white, it is best to bounce the light off of the ceilings. If that isn't an option, bouncing the light off a white wall or window is preferred. If these options are not available, adding a diffuser to the flash bulb, such as a Magmod Sphere or a white shoot-through umbrella, will be necessary. Hi, I'm Kristen Darling, and welcome to this introductory video on photographing film while using flash. We're in my studio today, and I have my lovely model Maddie with me, and we are just going to shoot some bridals, and I'm going to show you how I use off-camera flash with film. I've got my speed light on my stand. My studio has nice low ceilings that are white, so I can bounce the light off of there and it'll be nice and soft and natural looking on Maddie's face. So also today I am going to be shooting with my 80mm on my Hasselblad film camera, and which is a 50mm equivalent, and my 50mm lens on my Canon here to shoot digital so that you can see both of them. Oftentimes when I am setting up my flash and film, I start out taking a few digital shots. Number one, that helps me test the light and make sure that my meter is giving me the proper reading, and it also helps me make sure that there aren't any funky shadows on Maddie's pretty face. As we talked about in the PDF, I like to start with my speed light or whatever light I'm using for off-camera flash at the lowest setting or a very low setting, and then work my way up to have that bare minimum setting for the f-stop and shutter speed that I want to use. Today I am aiming to be at f4 with a shutter speed of 160, and I am rating Fuji 400H at box speed, which is 400 ISO. I currently have my speed light set to 1/32, and I'm going to go ahead and meter Maddie and see if that's the right reading or if I need to bump up the power a little bit. When you are metering for flash and film, you want to have your bulb out, and you want to meter in the shadows at a 90-degree angle, and that reading is 2.8, so I will need to bump it up a little bit. Alright, we're at 1/16 power. I'm going to meter Maddie again here in the shadows, and now I'm getting a meter reading of 1/60 at f4 and ISO 200. So we are ready to shoot. I also want to take some meter readings and highlights to make sure that we don't have more than 3 stops difference between the two. And my meter reading there is 5.6.5, so that's perfect. It's just one stop, about 1.5 stop. So I'll put my meter down. Alright, Maddie. I'm just going to stand up with your hands like this for a minute. And here. Beautiful. And here. Lovely. We're having to look over them. Using the flash for fill light means that you are just wanting to add a little extra light into your shadows to be able to get to your minimum desired setting, whether that be 2.8 or 4.0. Sometimes you just need a little bit more light in your shadows to get to your minimum f-stop. Adding a bit of flash at a lower power will fill in or bring in a little extra light to get your settings to where they need to be. You can also put your flash on your camera and point it straight up or angled back to bounce the light and create fill light. We have this gorgeous window light coming through here that just looks beautiful on Maddie's face, and I want to use the window light as my main source. However, I don't have quite enough light in the shadows to get to f4, so I have brought my light over to the other side as a fill flash to make sure that I have enough light in the shadows and that the shadows aren't underexposed, and also make sure that we get beautiful light without any crazy shadows on Maddie's face. So I'm first going to meet her in the shadows, and I'm getting a reading at ISO 400, 1/60th of a second at 4.0. And when I meet her into the highlights, I get a reading of ISO 400, 1/60th of a second at 8.0. So that's 2 stops difference, which is perfect. All right, Maddie, I am going to have you actually look out that way at the light. And gorgeous. And gorgeous, Maddie. And I'm going to switch to digital, or to film now. Eyes down just a second. And straight here at me. Oh, so pretty. And go ahead and look down at the flowers. And out at the window again. Right there. And right here. So pretty. Down the flowers again. Tilt your head this way a little bit. Gorgeous. All right. And that is using flash for film. The softest, most natural looking light is created when you place your subject as close as reasonably possible to your subject and you use a large modifier to diffuse the light. It is not always feasible to carry around a large softbox or to use a shoot-through umbrella. In that case, I prefer to use a nearby window. Pointing your flash at a 90-degree angle toward the window will bounce the light back onto your subject and create beautiful soft light. It is not necessary to have curtains or sheers on the windows. A bare window will work just fine. So we talked in the PDF about how the larger your light modifier, the softer the light, and also the closer your subject is to the light, the softer the light and more natural looking it will be on their face. While it's not always feasible to carry around large softboxes or umbrellas, you can often at least find window light. And one of my favorite ways to create soft looking natural light is to actually bounce my speed light off of a window. So here we have Maddie, and we have this beautiful natural light coming in, but I want to enhance it a little bit so that I have enough light in my shadows to be able to shoot film. So we're going to meter Maddie again in the shadows, and my reading is 2.8 at 1/60th of a second and ISO 400. And in the highlights, I am getting 8.0 at 1/60th and ISO 400. So we've got about 3 stops of light there, which is actually perfect. So, Maddie, I'm going to have you bring the flowers up towards your face just a little bit more. Beautiful. And I'm going to have you kind of look towards the light there. Beautiful. And right here, me. Gorgeous. And now I'm going to shoot a couple digital. And why don't you can bring hand up to your face just a little bit. Gorgeous. And a couple more here. And I'll kind of look off. And help me with just a soft smile. Gorgeous. Alright, and that is using your window light with the flash pointed towards it as a modifier. Whenever possible, I prefer to use a white shoot-through umbrella as my light modifier. Using the shoot-through umbrella fixes many possible issues that you might encounter. If you are photographing in a room with color on the walls, using a shoot-through umbrella will eliminate the color cast on your subject. Also, using an umbrella will evenly distribute the light and create super soft, natural, and flattering shadows on your subject. A great way to get really soft light when using your speed light is to use a white shoot-through umbrella. Hold the umbrella down at about 45 degrees and point my flash into the umbrella. And then I like to have the light setting at about a 45-degree angle from my subject, because that's the way, our favorite way that sunlight would fall on our subjects if we were outside. So we're going to meter over here in the shadows, again at 90 degrees, balled out, and then in here at the highlights. And I've got 4.0 in the shadows and 5.6 in the highlights, so we are ready to go. The great thing about having my light at a 45-degree angle is I can move all around my subject, my beautiful model Maddie here, and get a large variety of angles without having to move her at all. I'll just have her move her head towards me. When I am on location, for example, at a getting ready room or someone's home or at the reception, I always use 1 to 2 speed lights in a window or on a light stand bounced off the window or white ceiling. I always make sure I bring along my shoot-through umbrella and use it as needed. I usually use this for any indoor family formals or indoor couples or bridal party pictures or individual pictures of the bride and groom that I need to take. Occasionally I add a speed light on my camera when a little extra fill is needed. I always have my Sekonic L358 light meter and 2 Pocket Wizard triggers, one for the flash and one for each camera that I have. A few notes on shooting hybrid. When I first started pairing flash and film, I would use my 35mm digital camera to double check and make sure there weren't any poorly cast shadows on my subject. And I still do that when I am shooting on location. Honestly, my film images usually come back brighter than my digital samples look straight out of camera, but I really like also having a couple digital images to send to my lab as reference. I also want you to remember that 100 ISO on your digital camera equals 800 ISO for film. So therefore 200 ISO digital equals 800 on film, 400 digital equals 1600 on film, and so on and so forth. I also want you to remember that you need to think of your flash as the sun. So you would place it where you would want to place the sun in your images if you were outdoors. If you are somebody who likes to light your subject from a 90-degree angle, then you would want to put it more at 90 degrees. If you like a softer light, then you could put it at 45 degrees. You can also backlight with your flash. I would just recommend also having a flash or a reflector behind you to bounce that light back into your subject's face, unless you're trying to create a silhouette. So the biggest thing to remember, always remember, is that light is light. One of the most important professional relationships a film photographer can have is with their lab. The relationship you have with your lab is extremely important. I cannot emphasize this enough. The more you communicate with your lab and communicate your preferences with your lab, the better your scans will turn out. When I first started with my lab of choice, which is PhotoVision, I sent them digital images of my own that I loved, as well as screenshots from other photographers that I really liked the look of. Whether they were digital or film, I sent them whatever kind of look I wanted and that I was aiming to create with my images. I still also occasionally send them before and after images of scans that they have sent me to see what my edits of their scans look like. While labs are limited by what can be done in the scanner, the more you communicate your preferences with your lab, the closer they can get your final scans to you for your desired final image. You should always expect to have to do some sort of editing to your scans, just as you would have to do to your raw digital images. And if you have questions, I strongly urge you to call or email your lab. The techs at PhotoVision love talking all things film, and they can even schedule free calls with you to help you understand what's going on with your film scans, or to help you edit them, or to just in general talk film with you for a little bit and help you have a better understanding. Hi, we're going to go over your light meter just a little bit more so that we can discuss the different settings on it that you will need to use flash with film. First, I want to talk about the mode button. This is what changes you from the little sun for when you're doing natural light photography to the lightning bolt when you are using flash photography. Now, again, you don't want to use the lightning bolt with the C. I believe that that is for, the C is for cinema, that it's more for cinematic lighting. And all I know is that it's definitely not for our type of film photography that we're doing. You definitely want to use the lightning bolt in the middle for flash with film. So you are going to press down the mode button and at the same time turn the dial here, and you will till you get to your desired settings. And once you have the lightning bolt selected in the middle there, then you will set your shutter speed. I am always keeping my shutter speed to 1/60th with flash. That is sufficient to stop motion because the majority of your light is going to be coming from your flash, which is going to freeze motion. You also always want to, again, as I've said before, have your bulb out. You move your bulb in and out of your light meter by turning the dial around it. So we have it out for film and we meter at a 90-degree angle. I always meter film at box speed. You do not need to overexpose for film, even when you're using Fuji 400H, which all of us like to use that at 200 or even 100 whenever possible with natural light. You do not need to expose it with flash, and you really do not want to overexpose it with flash. Your lighting is always going to be consistent when you're using your flash, and also if you overexpose with the artificial light, you run the tendency of your images coming out really pink and oversaturated, and that is not what you want. So I always meter aiming towards 4.0 and knowing that I can go down and overexpose by one stop and not have any issues because I am not overexposing in the first place because I am metering bulb out. So anyway, that's a little lesson there, a little extra of I know not quite about the meter. But if you do want to change the ISO, say you're using Portra 800 or Kodak Portra 160, you just press the ISO button and then you turn the dial and you will be able to set your ISO. And then when you are ready to meter and test your lighting, you are going to, so when you are metering, you are going to meter, again, bulb out in the shadows at box speed. You are going to press this test button on your meter, just like you would if you were metering in natural light. You're going to hit the test button just like you would with natural light while holding your meter at the 90-degree angle in your subject's shadows. And then you're going to hit the test button on your Pocket Wizard. So first I hit the test button on my meter, and then right after that I hit the test button on my trigger. Now I don't have any flash going right now, so I don't have a setting, but that's the order that you do it. You push the test button again on your meter, then the test button on your trigger, and you will get that reading. If you're not getting the reading that you need, then you need to bump up the power on your speed light or flash or strobe, whatever kind of artificial light you are using. What makes using flash with film so nice is that you never have to worry that you're going to underexpose that film. No matter what, you're going to have plenty of light as long as you got plenty of flash power. So there you have it about the meter, about the Pocket Wizard. And then if you are needing to bump up the power on your flash, you do so with the plus and the minus buttons. Each flash varies, but that is the way that you set it. You go up to increase the power from say 1/32 to 1/8, or if you need to go down and have less power, you're going to hit the down button or the minus button, whichever your flash has. That's going to give you less power, and you're going to be set.